What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the Thomas Gallery, and today I want to talk about it's a touchy subject, but it is tied to each other somehow. We're talking about art and life and death. Now, you probably see this title like, what in the world are you talking about now? What about life and death? What are you talking about? Well, what I mean is how art plays a significant role in how we as humans view the cycle of life and death. Okay, now when it comes to life and death, we have a lot of ideas, a lot of images coming to our mind when we think about life and death. And the thing is, a lot of our ideas, whether we know it or not, stem from the way life and death is portrayed through the art. And it can be from a religious aspect, it could be from a scientific aspect, it could be from a just just the abstract aspect, like I did that day. But a lot of our views on life and death also it could be on based on what we've experienced personally, what we've seen when it comes to life and death. Seeing a baby being born, seeing someone die, attending a funeral, viewing a corpse, a baby crying, a mother holding the child when the baby is born. A lot of our ideas of life and death come from either our personal experiences or how it is viewed through art. And what I mean by that is this: when nowadays with TV and internet and social media, we can see the birth of a person, we can see the death of a person. But hundreds of years ago, you were able, we were able to see, a baby being born, but we weren't able to see the process of the gestation, or the process by which the baby is formed in the womb of the mother. Or when a person dies, we weren't able to see what happens after the person dies. I mean, well, we know what happens to the actual body, the host, the husk, the shell. We know that. But what happens to the quote unquote spirit, the soul, even the concept of a soul? A lot of our concepts of a soul came through the illustrations, through the art, because no one's ever seen a soul, no one's ever seen a spirit. Well, the word spirit comes from the Latin spiritus, meaning breath, meaning the actual breathing. That's where the word spirit comes from. But it is through art that we have given spirit a totally different concept. You ask anybody around, the common person, what is spirit? They will most likely give you some esoteric, metaphysical, religious rendition of what a spirit is. And then if you ask somebody, well, have you seen a spirit? They'll give you another esoteric, all that stuff. Then if you were to ask somebody, where does the word spirit come from? They probably could not tell you what the origin of the word spirit comes from. But if you explain to them what it means, then you can better navigate. You can guide them along now, because they actually know what the word means, the way it comes from, and it's not as deep as people think it is. The word simply means breathing, breath. That's where the word spirit comes from. But the idea that human beings have constructed of an afterlife, or where do you go when you die? Where does your soul go when you die? Is there a place for your soul when you die? What happens to a person before they're born? Can the person identify what happened to them before they were born. Chances are you're going to get a no in both cases. However, the ideas that we come up with, whether we know it or not, we come up with the images in our mind from art. Now, for example, let's say if someone does something bad and they say, "Oh, you're going to hell," and then that person would ask, "Well, what does hell look like?" And you say, "Well, it's a fiery place where you'll burn in a lake of fire and all that stuff." Well, here's the thing: you either can read that in a book or scripture, but if you're describing it as though you've seen it, where did the image come from that you gave the person that idea that's gonna be a fiery? Because here's the thing: depending on what culture you go to, hell is not fire. Hell is actually cold and dark. So, and that is shown through the art, the visual aspect. If someone says, "Oh, well, this person is looking down on us from heaven," well, if someone says, "Well, what does heaven look like?" You ask the common person on the street, "What does heaven look like?" They will probably give you an image that they saw or they encountered through a painting or something, or through a drawing or something. And that image, whether they know it or not, has stuck in their mind so firm that the only reference that they have is that image. But they actually have no personal reference. As far as I know, no one has ever described to us what it was like before they were born. And as far as I know, no one can describe what it was like after they died. Now, a person on the outside, another individual can see what happens to a person before they're born and what happens to a person after they die. But the individual themselves, 9 times out of 10, can't tell you and confirm and verify what they experienced before they were born and what they experienced after they died. 9 times out of 10, the stories you will hear come from some form of art. Like, you get the idea of Revelation, the rapture. People probably think of Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. You think about the crucifixion of Christ. You probably think about a painting of him on the cross, based on scripture, based on a text. And you can couple that with historical evidence of what actually happened, because people were actually crucified. That was a Roman practice for political prisoners, people being crucified. And what they would do is they would put you on, a pole, hang up there, and it would break your knees. Breaking the knees would make the person collapse, and they would collapse and suffocate under their own weight. However, it is never shown or read or said or described as such where Jesus, in the crucifixion story of the Bible, his knees were broken, even though that was a Roman practice. That was a Roman practice back then. During his time, the time that he purportedly lived, and he was crucified, they would have broken his knees, and they would also broken the two thieves on each side. Remember in the story, it was two thieves on the side of them. They would have broken all three of their knees, and they would have collapsed under the sheer weight of their body. They would have collapsed and suffocated. However, the breaking of the knees part is not described. So when you think about the crucifixion, when you think about the Buddha, you think about the images. You think about the images that are depicted through art. So, life and death. What happens when you die? Well, I can rest easy because my soul is going to heaven. What does heaven look like? They'll give you a description, and usually the description is there to help the person cope with the unknown, the unknown aspect of death. Because once you die, as far as people on the outside looking at it, once you die, nothing happens. Once you die, the body stops moving, and we don't know what else happens. The person who has expired has a different, may have a different view, but we don't know that. And the image that we can come up with our mind is basically what we've seen in art. We've seen so many depictions of death. We've seen so many depictions of life, whether it be mythological, like the image of Athena being birthed through the head of Zeus, the image of Aphrodite being born from the shell, the clam shell, whatever you call it. This is another aspect of birth that we see through art. And because we see it through art, and that image is so ingrained in our mind, we can't think of nothing else. We can't shake that. Right? So, here's my little 2 cents on that. A little something I want to drop on there for you. Hope y'all enjoy that. Hope y'all like it. Comment. What do you think about it? What do you think about art and life and death? What do you think about it? How does it affect you? Does it affect you at all? All right, so holla at y'all later. Peace.